All right. We did it. Maybe. Let's see if we can. All right. We did it. We did it. A couple of quick little adjustments here. I think we're pretty much good to go. All right, if you guys are in the chat, let me know if everything's coming through okay. We should be getting audio and video. I got monitoring set up over here, so whenever I look over here, I'm looking at my monitor of where we are. Let's take a look here. Hey, John. What's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. All right, cool. Thanks, IL. What's up, Charlie? Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Toby's Tech Talk, episode number 81. Really excited about this. I'm so glad you guys could all tune in. Let's make sure that everything's coming through properly on the stream here. Gonna switch over to an overlay. I want to see if the chat comes through on here. What's up, Bob? Thanks for tuning in. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Huh. Looks like my chat's not coming through on this one. I wonder. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can fix that. Maybe it's a different. Let me take a look here. There we go. Cool. Let's see if that comes through okay for everybody. Let me hit my light here too. I'm sitting here in the dark. We don't want that. Yeah. What's up, Desiree? Thanks for tuning in. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Cool. All right. Yeah, that's a little better. That lighting. A little bit of a delay on the stream, so as you guys are asking questions, I'll probably have let's see. Oh, we got to turn on this eye here too. Let's see if we can. There we go. Oh yeah, that looks a lot better. So whenever I'm looking over to the side over here, I'm just checking out the monitor. I'm not going to do that the whole stream. I just want to make sure everything's coming in. And what's up, Tony? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, that Sands looks a lot better there with that eye like that. Yeah, that's what we need. All right, cool. Looks like everything is solid for this SolidWorks webinar. So I want to, of course, thank you all so much for tuning in. And we'll get started here probably in 1 minute, right at the stated start time of noon. Cool. What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Lots of people coming in here. Let me see if I can change this chat. This makes a difference here. It's probably about the same. All chat, live chat, top chat, what's up chat. It's all got to be about the same, right? I don't think they're really screening. Yeah, what's up, Mark? Welcome back. Yes, we're back. We're live. We're doing it. We're going to make it happen. Hopefully everybody's able to get in here okay. I had a little trouble getting in. I had the wrong stream key in place, so I was streaming to my just regular live stream, but I needed to make a minor adjustment. But we got it working, you know. We do what we got to do. Make this all happen. All right, we got a few more people coming in here, but we are just about at 12 o'clock, so I think we're going to get started here. Maybe I'll wait one more minute. What's up, Mike? Thanks for tuning in. I know there's a slight delay here on the... Let me see here. See how long the delay is. I'm going to count it. Just about at 12 o'clock, so I think we're going to get started here. Geez, it's almost like a 20-second delay. Maybe I'll wait one more minute. Right, I'm going to test it. Here's the test. Up, Mike? Thanks for tuning in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, it's about, oh wait, 17. Yeah, it's like 17 seconds. All right. What's up, Brian? Thanks for tuning in. Shout out to Brian, who's going to be helping me out with moderating the chat. So along the way, if you guys have questions for me, of course, like always, you can fire it into the chat. Let's get started, though. We'll get started here in about 5 seconds. I'm going to take one final sip of my water here, and we're going to get started. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Toby's Tech Talk, episode number 81. So nice to have everybody here. Really excited to be streaming this live on YouTube. Feel free to put any comments or questions into the chat. We'll be answering those questions along the way. There is about a 20-second delay on the stream, so if you do type something in and I don't respond immediately, that's why. But I'll definitely be looking over at some of my other systems, like this one here, and I even have a monitoring system over here that I'll be looking at to make sure everything is going smoothly. But I want to say, of course, thank you all so much for tuning in. I really appreciate the support. Let's get into it with Toby's Tech Talk, episode number 81. So, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, these Tech Talk episodes, but a lot of people may be new to the presentation. So I want to, of course, say thank you all so much for tuning in. If you're a new viewer, if you're a longtime viewer, welcome back. And we are on episode number 81. So I did a series of these when I was working for the resellers, and now I'm honored to be presenting this as a member of the Dassault Systems team. So for the agenda for Toby's Tech Talk today, what we're going to do is we're going to start out with a quick intro. We're going to get into what's called a quick tip, which for today it's going to be working with the control key in SolidWorks. We're going to talk about news and updates from the world of SolidWorks. We're going to reinitiate the Toby's Tech Talk Modeling Challenge. It's not going to be a contest quite yet, but it's just going to be a challenge just for fun. But I want to challenge you to create some models if maybe you don't get a chance to do that in your regular job. And then what we're going to do is we're going to show some tips on setting up SolidWorks. Since this is the first episode of Toby's Tech Talk here with the crew at Dassault Systems, it may be the first episode for a lot of you who are tuning in, and I wanted you to kind of see how I get started with a basic SolidWorks setup. So just a quick intro of myself. My name is Toby Schnars. I started working with resellers back in 2001. Along the way, I managed to get my SolidWorks CSWA, CSWP, and CSWE expert. But of course, there's a lot of other certifications we needed to get along the way to accomplish these or other types of knowledge-based trials to ensure that we can provide the highest level of technical support. So I was kind of on a mission to achieve every single possible certification. I didn't quite get there yet, but there's still time. I'm still a young man, and hopefully by the end of my career, I'll have every single possible certification. I'm also on social media. You'll find me on the streets of YouTube, on Twitter, and on Reddit under the handle SolidWorks Toby. So if you want to reach out to me on any of those venues, feel free. You can also find me on LinkedIn as Toby Schnars. So that's enough of an intro about me, but I also just wanted to take a quick moment here and introduce the series. This is a little bit different. Toby's Tech Talk is a little bit different than how you might consume a tips and tricks webinar. And it's different because it's a little more like a kind of like a news State of the Union type of update that we're going to do every month for all of our users. Let everybody know what service pack are we on. Let everybody know, where are we in the world of SolidWorks. So as you're attending this, you could maybe get some lunch. So you could watch Toby's Tech Talk while you're eating lunch. That looks like a pretty nice burger there. I could really sink my teeth into that one. Or another thing you can do, and I see Tom Smith just logged into the chat and said, hey, Toby, 7 of us are here. So perfect timing, Tom. What you could do is you could get the team together. You could all get together in a room. You could set up Toby's Tech Talk kind of up on a projector or up on a screen. And you could almost use that as a monthly internal users group. So everybody on the team could get together, see each other, talk a little bit about SolidWorks, find out where we are currently. And who knows, there may be some tips and tricks that I share with you that you might want to have some additional discussion about. Maybe you plan on, all getting together every month for an hour during Toby's Tech Talk, and then you stick around for half an hour and just kind of talk about where things are with the team. And that's certainly how a number of our customers are using Toby's Tech Talk, and I'm honored that you guys are using that as your springboard to have your monthly internal users group. So that's it for the intro. Let's get into the quick tip, and today's quick tip is going to be on using your shortcut keys. So I just want you to think about what shortcut keys do you use the most, and maybe you could type it into the chat. What are your shortcut keys that you're using the most in the world of SolidWorks? Are you using, for example, Ctrl+Z, which is undo, great shortcut key? Type it into the chat. Are you using the space bar? Are you using the S key? You guys know this is one of my favorite shortcuts in the world of SolidWorks, and I'll be talking about this shortcut a little bit later, but do you use the S key? Are you using the escape key? I think that's probably one of the biggest and best shortcut keys. Or are you kind of a rebel and your favorite shortcut key is the page up key? What's your favorite shortcut key? And you may have answered one of these, S key. Brian says the S key. You may have answered something different, but the correct answer is the escape key. Sorry if you got it wrong. That's the correct answer. No, just kidding. There's a lot of great shortcuts in SolidWorks. I'd say probably the one that is most used across the board by everyone is the escape key. I know that I've always been in that spot where I spam the escape key, kind of back from my AutoCAD and CAD key days if I wanted to get out of something. But yeah, a lot of people are putting in the chat some of the different shortcuts they use. L for the line, Control-Alt-Delete, the S key. I love the S key. S key programmed right onto the mouse button. That's a good one. All of them, Mike says, yeah, I think that's a great one too. R for recent documents, that's a good one. And of course, Mark loves the print screen command. That's another really good one too. So here's some shortcuts that you can use if you hang out around the control key in SolidWorks. And these are some really good shortcuts. And what I'll do is I'll make this full screen so everybody can maybe take a moment if you want to. You can use that print screen button that Mark mentioned a moment ago, and you can capture these. And then I'm going to go through each of these. And this way you can kind of follow along, or you'll have these for notes for a little bit later. All right, so hopefully you had enough time to capture that. Let me go back to my SolidWorks environment here. I'm just going to jump over to SolidWorks here, and we're going to talk about some of these different shortcuts. So one of the ones that Desiree mentioned was Control-Q and Control-B. These are great ones to know about. So Control-B is the shortcut for standard rebuild. If you look at your feature tree and you ever happen to see in your feature tree that there's a feature that has a little rebuild light on it. So for example, if I was to change this dimension here from 2 to 2.5 and just press enter, we'll notice in the tree that that feature has a rebuild light on it. And what that rebuild light indicates is that that feature and any child features that are related to that feature are going to need to be rebuilt. So what that means is if we go up and we hit the rebuild light up top here, or if we hit Control-B, Control and the B key, that feature and any child features will be rebuilt. Changes back to 2 inches. And then I'll hit Control-B again for rebuild. Now, another command that was in that list was Control-Q. And Control-Q is a little different. What Control-Q does is if we roll back to the beginning of the tree and then we start moving forward and we were to kind of rebuild each feature along the way, that's more of what Control-Q does. See, Control-B is only going to rebuild downstream features. So for example, if we were to go to this last feature here in the tree and make a change to it, let's say I change it from 30 thou to 20 thou, and then we do a Control B, only that feature and maybe something downstream are going to get rebuilt. Everything else above it in the tree is not going to be rebuilt. None of these features have a rebuild light, and none of these features are a child of this feature here. So if I do a Control B, only that feature is rebuilt. But when I do a Control Q, the entire tree gets rebuilt. So which of those two shortcuts, Control B or Control Q, which one of those do you think is going to complete faster? And which of those two shortcuts, Control Q and Control B, which one of those two do you think is going to be a more elaborate rebuild? You know, that's the idea of Control Q and Control B. Hopefully you answered that Control B is typically going to be faster, but Control Q is going to be a more thorough rebuild. And for me personally, I just always use Control Q. I pretty much use Control Q for everything until the rebuild starts to get, you know, exorbitant, starts to take too much time, then I'll switch over. We can also take a look at Control S as a shortcut key. You know, a lot of times you might not think of that as a shortcut key, but the workflow that I use it in is I click over here in the tree, and then I press the F2 key. And then what I do is I start renaming my features. So I'll rename this one Front T, and I'll go to this feature here, and I'll call this one Front T Fillet. So I'm already over here on the keyboard, and I'm already typing information into the keyboard. My hands are already right here, so I may as well just at the end here let go of my mouse, let go of the keyboard, and then just press Control S, which is save. Control S is another really good shortcut to remember as you're working through the SolidWorks software. You know, another one that was in that list was just simply the ability to Control C, Control V, copy and paste. A lot of us know this from things like Microsoft Word or from copying and pasting, you know, web addresses in a web browser, but you can also do it in SolidWorks. I can pick a feature, Control C, click somewhere else, Control V, and I can paste that feature in that new location. So Control C, Control V, or we could also do a Control drag type of a command. So I can hold Control and drag a feature from the SolidWorks tree onto my SolidWorks model, and I can actually make a copy of that feature by doing a Control drag. So Control C, Control V, or Control drag to make a copy of your features, another really, really good shortcut to remember. That also works great in assemblies. If you're ever working in an assembly and you've got existing components that you need to make a copy of, you can do a Control drag in your assembly to make a copy of those components. So if, for example, we've got this guy here and we want to do a Control drag, you can see I can hold Control and drag from there, or hold Control from the tree and I can drag from there. So we're getting some chat here. We get some feedback. Some people are saying, oh, I didn't know about that one. That's a good one. Some other good shortcut keys to remember. We love some of these shortcut keys too. Tom says nobody uses Control B. It is a little bit awkward if you're doing it as a one-handed shortcut. You have to, you know, if we were using Control Q, you can get to it. It's all right here, right on the side, Control Q, if you looked at your keyboard, where Control B is like a weird, awkward, you have to kind of lean over to get that Control B. So I hear you there, Tom. Another good shortcut to know about is simply being able to multi-select by holding Control. So you can hold Control and you can pick all three of these entities here and then, for example, press Delete and get rid of all three of them in one shot. You know, it's another really good tool to know about is multi-select using Control. But it's not just for deleting things. You know, when we're working in SolidWorks, one of my favorite shortcuts that I remind people about is avoiding the use of the measure command in SolidWorks. You know, we don't have to go up here and click evaluate measure to determine what the diameter of this hole is. What we can do instead is we can simply click on that hole and then look down here in what's called the status bar. So we can just click on that hole. Let me just get rid of this overlay that I've got here in my stream because it's kind of blocking the it's kind of blocking that feedback. So just give me 1 second here. There we go. And so all I'm going to do is pick on that face, and then I'm going to zoom in down here at the bottom of the screen. And we see that when I zoom in at the bottom of the screen, we've got that feedback indicating what the diameter of that hole is. So if we bring this back to the idea of using the Control key as a shortcut key in SolidWorks, what we can do is we can pick this face here, then we can hold Control, pick this face here, and SolidWorks shows us what the distance is between those two faces. Pretty cool, right? You don't need to use the measure command. You can just hold Control. You know, what if the faces aren't parallel? Well, if they're not parallel, but if they are at an angle, that same status bar will tell us what the angle is between those two faces when we pick one and we hold Control, and then we pick the other one. So these are great ways to use the control key to multi-select. But another one that I use a lot, and I find it to be a great time saver, is to use the control key to multi-select for some type of a downstream command, kind of like a pre-selection type of application. So what I mean by that is that if I was to select this T and the fillet over here on the left side of this block, so the fillet and the T, so I'm holding control to select those both, and then I was to pick the right plane, and then I go to the command features mirror, you can see that SolidWorks automatically adds that plane to the appropriate box here, and automatically adds the features to the appropriate boxes. And it doesn't even matter the order that I select them. Let's say I pick the right plane first, then I pick the fillet, then I pick the T, and I go to mirror. You can see that it still picks up on the appropriate entities for the appropriate boxes. You know, another one that I really like to use this in is the sweep command. Let's say I start a new part file here and I go to the front plane and I begin align. I'm going to come back and I'm going to touch the end point of that line and come off of it. I'm going to kind of come up at an angle and then just come straight across here like so. And I'm going to exit that sketch, and then I'm going to go to the right plane and I'm going to create a rectangle. I'll do a center point rectangle here like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to perform a sweep command. So I'm going to exit that sketch, and I'll call this one the path, which is open, and I'll call this one the profile, which is closed. And when you have an open sketch and a closed sketch and you pre-select them, it doesn't matter what order you select them in. If I hold control and select both of them, SolidWorks will always put the closed profile in the, or the closed sketch in the profile box, and it'll put the open sketch in the path box. So let's say I switch the order of that. I pick the lower one first this time. You can see SolidWorks still gets it. So multi-selecting as a pre-selection tool can also be a great time saver when it comes to working with the control key. It's another great way to save some time. Just get in there and hold the control key when you're doing your multi-selection. Now, another thing that we can do with this idea of multi-selection is we can quickly add sketch relationships. So you can pick one, you can hold control, you can pick the other, you can let go of control, and when you do that, you can see that you get this dialog box here where we could maybe make those two perpendicular. Let's say I had a series of circles. So circle, 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 circle. I could pick one, hold control, pick the other, pick the other, pick the other, let go of control, and you see that this box shows up. Now, it's that last step that maybe warrants a little bit of repetition. So what I'm going to do with this hand is I'm going to pick the first entity. Then I'm going to hold the control key. Then I'm going to pick this next entity, this next entity, this next entity. And you can see nothing happens. Now I'm going to let go of the control key. And that's when you see that box show up. So you have to remember to do that last step if you're going to take advantage of these awesome shortcuts of the workflow of select one, hold control, select the other, select the other. Now I'm going to use another control shortcut, which is Control Z to undo that. So you see I did an undo to undo that relationship that I made. Here what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one, hold control, pick the other, pick the other, pick the other. I'm going to let go of control, and you see this box show up. So it's when you let go of control that that box shows up. Now, another thing that you can do with the control key that you might not have known about is you can move away from that box. So you see the box went away. And then what you can do is you can kind of take your mouse back over in the area where the box was, and then you can press control again. So now I'm going to press control again, and you see the box comes back. This is pretty nice, right? If you made a selection of 4 circles and you lose that box, you don't want to have to, hit escape and then do it all over again. Pick one, hold control, pick the other, hold control, you don't want to have to do that all over again just because you happen to move away from that box. So what you can do instead is you can go back up kind of near where that box was and then just tap control again, and boom, the box comes back. You just have to be kind of close to where it originally was. Now I can make those equal so that they all resize together. And another little shortcut that I did when I was working on that sketch was I actually did a pan command in SolidWorks. So, let's say that we are creating a sweep here. And then what we want to do is we want to zoom in on this edge right here. And we want to add a fillet. So I'm going to do S key fillet. I'll make that 30 thou, and I'll add it right here to this edge. And then we want to add that same fillet to the other end of the model. What are we going to do? A lot of times what we would do is we would kind of zoom all the way out and then zoom back in there. But SolidWorks actually has a pan command, and what it is you hold down the control key and then you press down on the wheel on your mouse. So you hold down the control key and press down on the wheel on your mouse, and that lets you pan. So I actually used that just a few moments ago without even really thinking about it because I just needed to move my sketch kind of down into a different location. That's another spot where I use that a lot. You know, you're working on a sketch and you need to relocate how you're looking at that sketch. So, you know, you may move that sketch over, something like that. Another shortcut that I'm using here without even really consciously discussing it is the use of changing views. So the control key and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 across the top and 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. The control key and those keys is another shortcut that's built into the software to let you change through your different views. So this is another, you know, great tool to know about when you're working in SolidWorks, is just the simple ability to change your views real quickly without having to, you know, press the space bar and bring up the view cube, or maybe go up here. A lot of times I see people going up here to change their view. No, you don't have to do that. You can just press Control 7, boom, you're in that view. Or a lot of times I get into edit sketch mode, and once I get into edit sketch mode, I'll just press Control 8, which drops me right into a normal 2 view and kind of zooms me in on the sketch. So the select one, hold Control, select the other is useful when you're in sketch mode to add sketch relationships, but it can also be utilized here in assembly mode. So what I could do here is I can pick one, hold Control, pick the other, let go of Control, and now I'm in a quick mate command. So it's very similar to adding a sketch relationship, but we can do it in a quick mate command here. So again, just kind of jumping back to full screen here, I'll pick one, hold Control, pick the other, let go of Control, and now you can see that I can make these concentric as a quick mate. So again, kind of sticking with this theme, I can maybe pick this face here, hold Control, pick this face here, let go of Control, and then make those coincident. Just a really, really quick way to get in there and start adding in your mates. And of course, if you happen to miss that dialog box, if I pick one, hold Control, pick the other, let go of Control, and then I move away, well, now we know you can just kind of tap the Control key and bring that box back. So you don't have to, you know, hit escape and start all over again. So a couple of final things I just want to mention here have to do with breaking alignment or breaking inferencing. Here what I'm doing is another Control shortcut, holding Control, and I'm tabbing through my currently open dialog boxes. So Control and tab through. And then another kind of cool function that we have when it comes to the control commands is the ability to break inferencing. So for example, let's say I wanted to create a line here and I want this line to come down vertical, but I don't want to, you know, accidentally pick up on this relationship here, or maybe I don't want it vertical. I want it to come down at a slight angle. What I can do is I can hold Control, and that temporarily disables that inferencing in sketch mode. So you can see here now I'm not getting those relationships, whether it's vertical or whether it's, you know, hooking up to that point there. I'm not getting that relationship. Sometimes, you know, most of the time you want those relationships, but sometimes you don't. You know, if I want to make a line here that's not quite to the midpoint, you know, I don't want to have it snap. I want it to be right in between these 2 points, but it keeps snapping to one or the other. Well, I can just hold Control there. And now I can drop that point wherever I want without picking up on that inferencing. And then the last thing I just want to mention here with regards to the Control command and you know, use of shortcuts with the Control command, I'm going to go here to File, Make Drawing from Assembly. Just make a quick drawing of this assembly. I'm going to drop in a top view here of this assembly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a section view. So I'm going to go in here to my drawing views, my available drawing views, and I'm going to bring up a section view here of the wheel. And we've all been in this spot. You know, you don't want the section view to be right there. You want it to be kind of over to the side or somewhere else on the drawing. So we, you know, would typically drop that view, and then we would maybe go to a right mouse button, alignment, break alignment. But new in SolidWorks, probably, I don't know, 2001, there was a function added where you can hold Control and you can move your mouse, and now you can see you can just break that alignment all in one step. So when you're doing those section views and you want them to be, you know, somewhere other than the default location of aligned, you know, this is a great way to do it. You can just quickly jump in here. You can go into your section view command, drop in where you want your section view to exist. Then you can kind of hold Control and just drop that view right over here. And now you have those 2 different section views, and they're not aligned with the original print. So I hope you found that helpful. That's an example of what we call a quick tip in Toby's Tech Talk. Just kind of, you know, showing you a quick way that you can use the software maybe to be a little bit more efficient, a little bit more effective Mike says, Control to bring up the dialog box is one of my favorites. Yeah, that's definitely one that has saved me a lot of time, a lot of frustration, you know, which is kind of the point of sharing these tips, is to help you not end up feeling frustrated. And that's definitely one that you can use. But hopefully there's some other ones in there that maybe you weren't aware of, and that'll help you out moving forward. So I'm just going to leave that up on the screen for one more moment here. Question from Tom, does that work with other view types? So does the control to break alignment work with other view types? Let's take a look. I'm happy to jump in the software and take a look. That's why we're here, Toby's Tech Talk. So let's try with a projected view. So you see I'm moving the projected view over here. I'm going to hold control. Yep, I can break it with the projected view. Let's try it with maybe an auxiliary view. Probably the same with an auxiliary view, but let's just try it anyway. So I'm going to jump in here and just make a sketched line at an angle so I can dump in an auxiliary view there. Take that guy, and then I'm going to go here to my view layout, auxiliary view. And we're going to hold control. Yep, works there too. Yeah, so it does work with other views. Yeah, great question. All right, well, I hope you found that helpful as a quick tip. And with that, we're going to move on to the next segment of our presentation today, which is going to be news and updates from the world of SolidWorks. So whenever we're doing Toby's Tech Talk, I always like to start this section with a tech alert, big tech alert with the red map of the world on there. And these would be things that maybe would affect a lot of different users, you know, throughout the SolidWorks base, and we want to hopefully provide you with a solution to get around those issues. The good news is there really wasn't too much. I mean, it's the beginning of the year. We're kind of coming to the end of Q1. This is typically when things are a little bit slower in the world of tech support. But I always have my ear to the ground. I'm always looking for maybe any cases that are affecting a lot of our users. The only one that really comes to mind was that Windows did push out an update for Windows 10. The update is known as 1809, and you can see here in the description that it was causing SolidWorks 2017 or SolidWorks 2018 to fail to start. So shout out to my homeboys over at Microsoft. Thank you so much for pushing out that update and giving all of our users a fun morning. The good news is that it's a really easy fix. All you got to do is go into Windows Control Panel, and once you're in Windows Control Panel, you can just do a repair of SolidWorks, and that will fix up the issue, and then everything will be able to run again. So it's a pretty straightforward fix. It's just, you know, maybe it kind of catches you by surprise. And if you've already run into this, hopefully your reseller has been able to help you out. But if not, you know, this is the solution. If you haven't run SolidWorks 2017 or 18 in a while on your Windows 10 machine, maybe boot it up, see if you happen to run into the issue. And if you do, just run the repair real quick and you'll be good to go. The other thing I wanted to mention, just because I think it's going to affect a lot of our users, is we did do an upgrade to the search engine running underneath the knowledge base. And once that was done, it's great. It's going to make your searches faster. You're going to have more options as to what you want to search and how to filter your results. But the first time you go into it, you might run into an access denied error. And again, it's a really simple fix. It just means that you've got old information loaded in your internet browser cache. So all you do is go into your settings, like in Google Chrome, go into your settings, go down into advanced, and then just clear your cache. That'll clear this error, and then you'll be good to go again. I love the SolidWorks knowledge base. I'm always in there looking for answers, and it's a great way to quickly, you know, get your answers resolved. So when I first ran into this, I was like, oh no, and then I was like, well, first thing you always want to try if you ever run into like a weird case like this, first thing you can try is just to clear your browser cache, or maybe try it from a different computer that hasn't run it before. That'll validate that the browser cache could be the issue. Here's another bit of news from the world of SolidWorks that everybody should know about. Maybe you already know about it, but if not, this will, you know, maybe you're sitting around waiting like, how come I haven't gotten my SolidWorks 2019 DVDs yet? So we decided that it seemed pretty apparent that a lot of users weren't using the DVDs. And a lot of our users actually thought they were using the DVDs. And so the routine would look something like this. They would get the DVD, put it into their computer, and the DVD was at service pack 0. And then they would get a message. And when they get the message, after they put in the Service Pack 0 DVD, they would get a message, and the message would say something like, Service Pack 1 is available. Would you like to download it now? And they would say yes. And so now at this point, they're not even using the DVD. All they did was use it to just get the process started. And a lot of these DVDs are ending up in the trash. They're ending up in landfills. And so we decided that we want to make sure that any user who wants a DVD can get it. All you got to do is either request this form from your reseller or request it from us. We'll send you a link to the form. You fill out a really simple form, and we'll send you out a media kit within a few days. So it's a really simple process if you need a DVD. But if you're, sitting around wondering like, hey, how come 2019 never came to me? Or, I never got a SolidWorks 2019 DVD. This may be why. And frankly, your best bet is to do the full download. I've posted several videos on this topic. I mean, there's a lot of videos out there on this topic, but if you can find a video that's hosted by this guy, you know you're going to be in the right ballpark. But I've posted a lot of videos about this. This is something that I personally do as well. I mean, I'll show you my directory here, my data directory. So inside my data directory here, you can see that I've got a SolidWorks downloads folder, and this contains all the downloads from the past few years. Full download each time. Full download lets you do a new install, lets you apply a service pack to an existing install, lets you run a repair, lets you modify the install. So, I mean, it's definitely the best practice is to get a copy of the full download anyway. So I'm glad that we're moving in that direction, but just keep in mind, if you need a media kit, we're happy to send it out to you. Just let us know. All right, let's move on and talk about some other things in the world of SolidWorks news. First of all, the current service pack that we're on for SolidWorks 2018 is Service Pack 5. And the current service pack that we're on for SolidWorks 2019 is Service Pack 1. So if you are not currently on those service packs, that's where you would want to be getting. Now, I did talk to one of the head honchos in tech support yesterday, and he let me know that Service Pack 2 is slated to come out tomorrow. So if you were considering doing the upgrade today, maybe just hold off and wait till Service Pack 2 comes out. It's coming out tomorrow. Of course, as you're looking at these service packs in the download page, there's a link that says, click here to see what the general fixes are. Any issues that were resolved in these service packs, you can read about them to make sure that you know what you're getting with that new service pack. I mean, when 2019 SP1 came out, it was really exciting for me because they added the full support for e-drawings and virtual reality. All you need is an HTC Vive headset and eDrawings 2019 Professional, and you can view any of your SolidWorks parts or assemblies in one-to-one scale in a virtual reality environment. So shout out to my man Alex who put up this amazing video. You can see here, actually let me just throw the link into the chat real quick. This video is awesome. It definitely gives you a full view of what it's going to look like to be in this virtual reality environment working in eDrawings. So it's really cool stuff here. Let me just drop this into the chat. And if you are interested in what that process looks like and what it's going to look like inside of the eDrawings virtual reality experience, take a look at that video. He does a great job of summing it up for everybody. But definitely something cool to look for in eDrawings 2019 SP1. I do work with the extended reality team, so if you do have any more questions about that, hit me up on LinkedIn. And if we get enough chatter about this, we could definitely have an upcoming episode of Toby's Tech Talk all about extended reality. Maybe even just do the whole episode in virtual reality, right? We'll do multiplayer virtual reality. It'll be awesome. Also, something I just wanted to mention, CAM was included in SolidWorks 2019. Any customer who's on subscription gets SolidWorks CAM. And if you need more functionality, if you need turning functionality or assembly type functionality, you can upgrade to CAM Professional. But what you may not have known is that we also offer a product called Machinist Standard and Machinist Professional in 2019. So basically, this would be for somebody who doesn't need full SolidWorks, particularly doesn't need drawings, but wants to do some CAM. So this might be a machinist on your team or maybe a third party that your team works with. So Machinist Standard gives you CAM Standard for milling operations and SolidWorks parts. So in other words, it's a standalone program that is SolidWorks, but only gives you parts. You can only work with parts. Can't work with assemblies, can't work with drawings. But it also has the CAM functionality. So, why would anybody want this? Well, it's cheaper. That's why. It's cheaper. It's less expensive than purchasing a full seat of SolidWorks and CAM. And similarly, when it comes to Machinist Professional, Machinist Professional is going to include SolidWorks CAM Professional. So you're going to have mill operations and turning operations. You're going to have the ability to work with parts and with assemblies when you're generating your toolpaths. There's the CAM Professional, there's no drawings, but it does have full SolidWorks part capabilities and full SolidWorks assembly capabilities. So it's kind of like SolidWorks without drawings. And that's what's known as Machinist Professional. And again, this is going to be less expensive than purchasing a full seat of SolidWorks and purchasing a seat of CAM Professional. So this is just kind of letting you know that this is out there. If this is something that you're interested in, or that you have a third party who's interested in, just reach out to your reseller and ask them about Machinist Professional. All right, so with that, I want to talk a little bit more about news from the world of SolidWorks, aka SolidWorks World. So SolidWorks World happened last month, and I was surprised to learn that it is the last SolidWorks World ever. Yes, if you can believe it, the last SolidWorks World ever. I didn't expect that, but it's not. SolidWorks World is not going away. It's being renamed to 3D Experience World. And this announcement was made on Monday morning, and it really set the tone for this idea of the 3D Experience, the 3D Experience platform. I mean, all around the event, there were people asking about the platform. There were people talking about the platform during their presentations. There were people, asking me questions about it, certainly walking around the floor, what's going on with the platform? What is the platform? Is everything moving to it? What's the deal with the platform? So kind of going to take a stab at this in my own words, my own kind of Tobified definition of the 3D Experience platform. The 3D Experience platform is a website that you log into, and it acts as a place to share ideas and organize information. I mean, that's really the best way to wrap your head around what the 3D Experience platform is trying to accomplish. It's trying to give you a place to share ideas and organize information. Google is a platform, right? And on Google, there are applications that you can purchase. Right, you can purchase Google Music. You can purchase YouTube Premium type of subscription where you don't have to, you can get into certain content and you don't have to view the advertisements. You can increase the space on your Google Drive. So Google is a platform, and it has a series of applications, and I'd say it's more of a social platform. So the applications all have to do with social types of interactions. Well, the 3D Experience platform also has applications, but it's more of a engineering manufacturing type of a platform. The applications that are going to be on there are going to be more geared towards engineering and manufacturing. You're going to see applications that do things like manage your supply chain or help you do data management. These are all applications that you're going to find on the 3D Experience platform. And of course, you can model 3D stuff, right? It's a place to share ideas and organize information, and you can model 3D stuff, right? So that's always an important part of the platform. So you start out on the platform by going and logging in. You go to a website and you log in, just like on Google you would go and you would log in, and then you would have access to all those applications that you purchased. Now, the way that you organize this information for your teams can be different. One way that you can organize it is actually a platform that we use. It's called the PSC, the Professional Solutions Community. This is a community that we use internally at SO, and we also use it for the resellers. So you can screen who's able to see your communities. So for example, you could have an internal kind of like knowledge sharing, idea sharing community that only members of your team can see. Then you could have another community that you want your customers to see, or your third-party vendors, the outside people that you work with. And this community works, a lot like a forum. Different members of the team are able to go on and share information with other members of the team. So just last night, Mark posted something. He said, I'm happy to announce that we're changing our policy for how we handle virtual private networks. The virtual private network is still on you as the end customer to establish and to support, but we'll help you. We have a lot of in-house knowledge. We don't want to turn our back to you. I mean, SolidWorks doesn't make the VPN. So in the past, we always kind of said, it's up to you to make sure it's working. But you know what? We have a lot of in-house knowledge, and if we can help you, if it makes your customer experience better, we want to help you. I think that's an awesome announcement, And so I went onto that forum and I said, wow, this is awesome. And I put a comment on that forum. For you, as a customer, if you have the 3D Experience platform, this might be ideas about an upcoming product. It might be how to make batteries for your lights that last a little bit longer, because apparently my battery just died. Stand by. Technical difficulty. We're back. Sorry about that. Little battery failure midstream, always fun. So yeah, the platform is pretty cool. There's lots of cool stuff you can do with these communities. I mean, after you make these posts, you can track the analytics, so you can see, you know, which customers are most interested in your product. You can search those results. So I wanted to find out more information about anybody who's posted about Logitech hardware, so I just went through and searched the results. You know, you can screen the results, all kinds of cool stuff. And then, of course, once you find those results, let's say I wanted to learn a little bit more about SolidWorks CAM, and I had an inspiration. I was inspired to create a 3D model. You know, then what we can do is we can actually jump right up here to what's called the compass. So this compass area up here in the upper left, and then we can jump down to a 3D modeling app and create that 3D model right on the platform. So this is just kind of like a real quick introduction. I'm not trying to go too crazy with, you know, advertising the platform, because we're in a SolidWorks Tech Talk here, right? A Toby's Tech Talk. But this all does relate back to SolidWorks, because what's really cool about the platform is that they are integrating some of this functionality back into SolidWorks, back into things like the task pane. So you can jump onto the task pane and log in, and then you can see that same feedback of, here's an idea for our team. You know, our whole team is working on an idea, and I don't want to be emailing everything back and forth. I just want to have kind of like a running chat dialogue that I can search, you know, similar to the way you can search a chat like on Google Hangouts. You can go through and search your chat. Same thing here on the platform. We can go through and search, but we can do it right in that SolidWorks interface. So you're going to see a lot about the platform. I hope that that kind of gives justice to the spirit of the platform. Let's talk about how you can get onto it for free, right? So one of the big announcements at SolidWorks World this year was they're taking a series of these applications and they're grouping them together and giving them to all SolidWorks customers who are on subscription. Pretty nice, right? So these are called the Social Collaboration Services, or SCS. And one of those is 3D Swim. It's the second one here. And that's the one where we can create that community where we have the post, the original poster, and the comments, the almost like a forum type of a stream. And it's fully searchable. Another one is what's called a 3D dashboard. This is an example of a 3D dashboard here. So again, this is where you might have your project and have different members of your team commenting on the project, on you know, what's good about the project, what they don't like. You can also store your files in a shared 3D drive. And this is all now included in your SolidWorks subscription. So if you want to get started with some of these apps, if you want to get onto the platform for free, and you want to start just kind of poking around and seeing what's going on, just do a Google search for 3D Experience Social Collaboration Services, and then click here on this button that says Request Access. That's all you got to do. We're rolling it out little by little to all the customers, so you don't immediately automatically have it. But if you want it, you can get it. All you got to do is get in there and say Request Access. Another thing that is available for users who want to start to experience the platform is XDesign in the Lighthouse program or the trial program. So XDesign is not going to be free forever. It's eventually going to be a purchased product, a purchased application. But right now, you can still get on. You can go and do a Google search on SolidWorks XDesign to find out what it's all about. And you can go to My SolidWorks, and you can see up at the top, we've got this Try XDesign. And that's going to give you an invitation to the platform. And it's going to give you the ability to work with this 3D CAD in a totally browser-based environment. So you could do things like work with XDesign on a tablet. I have a tablet. I use a Bluetooth mouse with it, just because I feel like it's a lot easier to navigate with a mouse than with just using your finger. But you can certainly just do everything right on the tablet. It's fully browser-enabled and touchscreen enabled. Another thing that was just added, I was really happy to see this. My man Lutz posted about this on LinkedIn. XDesign now supports 3D connection devices. So if you're using a Space Mouse, Space Navigator, any of those tools, you can utilize them in combination with XDesign. So you can see here, he says, so happy it now supports 3D connection devices. And he says it runs great on my Mac. So he's not even using what we would consider traditional supported hardware for SolidWorks, but it doesn't matter because XDesign runs right in the browser. So really, really cool stuff with XDesign. If you want a chance to check it out, that's one way that you can check it out. And in the future, we're going to see other tools added here, things like Structural Simulation Engineer for those users who are looking to do more than what they can do with traditional SolidWorks simulation. You can work on some of the higher end solvers that we have access to through the 3D Experience platform. Or X-Shape, if you're doing a lot of crazy, swoopy, lofty designs, you can work with sub-D modeling, true sub-D modeling in X-Shape. Or Collaborative 3D Designer, which is another cloud-based PLM. So instead of just storing your files on a drive and not having any revision control, we can actually offer you that as well. Some cloud-based revision control so you can keep track of the iterations of your designs. So I just wanted to take a moment here to kind of give you a quick overview of what the 3D Experience platform is. I hope that takes away some of the mystery. And again, really at the heart of this thing, the spirit of the 3D Experience platform is it's a place for engineering and manufacturing teams to share ideas and organize information. And certainly there's a ton of applications on the 3D Experience platform. I showed you just a small smidgen of them, and you can do a lot more. You can do HR type of applications. You can do, full supply chain applications. There's lots of different stuff you can do with the available apps. But for, within the context of the Toby Tech Talk community, it's a place for engineers and manufacturing teams to share ideas and organize information. And on that note of the Toby's Tech Talk community, are we going to have a Toby's Tech Talk community on the 3D Experience platform? You're darn right we're going to. I'm just finishing up getting everything organized for it, and we're definitely going to have one on there. So we'll have a chance to share ideas within the Toby's Tech Talk community and come up with, some ideas for what should we talk about next month? Who should be our special guest? All that fun stuff for Toby's Tech Talk. All right, so let's move on now to the Toby's Tech Talk Modeling Challenge. Those of you who are longtime viewers know that we love doing these modeling challenges. For a long time, it was a contest. Right now, it's just going to be a little bit more of a casual challenge. But here's the part that I'm going to challenge you to make. And if you're new to Toby's Tech Talk, the gist of this is maybe in your current role, you don't really get too much time to model, and you want a few additional challenges each month, model out some parts. So this gives you the chance to do that. So your challenge here is to take this part and this drawing and turn it into a full 3D model. So I'll give you a chance there to just do a quick screen capture. You can use the window snipping tool, or you can use print screen, Mark's favorite shortcut, print screen. All right, and hopefully that was enough time for everyone to capture that 2D print. Once you capture that, you can put it aside, you can save it for later, but your challenge is to create that model, follow the specifications on the print, and then come up with what is the mass of this part in grams. Now, normally I would have you email me the answer, but for this month, for this episode of Toby's Tech Talk, I'm just going to have you hold on to the answer. We will reveal the answer next month, so I'll just have you hold on to the answer for now. To make it interesting, maybe what we could do is once this video goes onto YouTube, why don't you put the answer down in the comments? All right, so if you have a YouTube account, you can put the answers down in the comments. Otherwise, just hold on to the answer and we'll review it next month, and we'll see who was able to get the correct answer there. Hopefully everybody, but if not, that's okay. I'll go through and I'll model this part next month so you can see kind of the workflow that I go through when I'm creating a part like this. All right, and with that, we're going to move into the final section of Toby's Tech Talk, episode number 81. And that final section is going to be on tips on setting up SolidWorks Toby setup. So these are the things that I do personally when I'm going through and creating my initial setup for SolidWorks. Let me close SolidWorks here. And I'm going to go to what's called a Registry Editor. Don't try this at home. Right? I've made a number of videos about the registry editor, and it certainly is something that's good if you know how to use it, and it can be devastating if you don't know how to use it. So make sure you know what you're doing before you get in here. But for me, what I'm doing is I'm tricking Windows, the Windows operating system, into thinking that this is the first time I've ever launched SolidWorks on this computer. So essentially, I'm going to be working completely out of the box here with SolidWorks. So it looks like the time right now is about 12:49. I'm going to just run through all of these settings here in just a matter of, I think I can probably do this in 4 minutes. So let's get started here. We're loading up SolidWorks for the first time. Let's take a look at what Toby does when he's first getting the software up and running so that he can be a speed master in the SolidWorks software. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out at the top. I'm going to go across here and hit this little push pin That's going to keep these menus available. Then I'm going to go to my add-ins. I'm just going to make sure there's no add-ins on that I don't want. So for the most part, that means the only thing I want is SolidWorks PDM and SolidWorks Toolbox, maybe, if I'm using that. So all the rest of these check marks here, I'm just going to go through and turn them off. I'll turn them off on this side as well. You know, eventually we're going to include the 3D experience in that list of add-ins that I want to include. But for now, I'm just going to say I want Toolbox and PDM. I don't really need anything else here to be included. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to New Part command. And once I get into the New Part command, I'm just going to begin a new sketch. And the reason I want to go into a New Part command here and start a new sketch is because I'm going to be customizing my S key shortcut key. So we go here, Sketch, and I press the S key, and here you can see the S key shortcut key. I just move my mouse over and press S on my keyboard, and I'm going to do a right mouse button, customize, and once I go into customize here, I'm going to customize this S key. So here's my current layout for the S key. I get rid of the rectangle flyout, and I get rid of the line flyout, because I don't need those flyouts. Instead, what I want is I want the line to just be a line command, and I want the rectangle to be an explicit corner rectangle or center rectangle. I don't ever use the other two, so I really don't want them to be showing up in the pull-down menu. Then I resize the box a little bit, and then I jump to the feature commands, and I add the feature for boss extrude, and I add the feature for cut extrude. So now whenever I'm working in sketch mode, I can sketch a rectangle, hit the S key, jump right into the extrude command, create an extrusion here, go back to sketch mode here, begin a sketch, S key, circle, begin a circle there, go into my cut extrude command, right mouse button through all, and finish that cut extrude. So things are already starting to cruise along here. I also prefer to have the traditional colors. You know, when I'm in sketch mode here and I press the S key, I want the feature commands to really jump out at me. I don't want them to be that same kind of blue and white. So I'm going to go to my options, and I'm going to go to colors, and I'm going to say I want to use the traditional or classic colors, and I'll make that medium light as well. So now when I press the S key, you can see that my feature commands are showing up in those traditional colors. Next, what I'm going to do, this is just something new that I like to do, is I notice that when I create a center line here, and then I window select these, mirror sketch is not available here, right? I can make, if I window select multiple entities, I can make them collinear or parallel or equal. How come mirror sketch doesn't show up there? I want that to show up. Well, it doesn't. So what do? Right mouse button, customize, and then I can add any commands to this context bar as well. So I like to go down here to the sketch tools, and then I just add my mirror entities to the context bar. So that way, if I ever find myself in this spot where I want to do a little bit of pre-selection, I can just select those and then mirror entities. Boom, good to go. Next, I want to just briefly talk about the use of instant 2D and shaded sketch contours. It's important to know what these functions do. You know, shaded sketch contours, you can see that it shades in the sketch here, and it changes what happens when you're inside the sketch and drag. I personally do a lot of crossing selecting to pick corners like so, and you lose that ability if you have the shaded sketch contours. Although you gain some other functionality, it's for that reason that I typically turn it off. And then when it comes to Instant 2D, what Instant 2D does is when you single click on a sketch dimension, it behaves very similar to Instant 3D. Meaning that you don't get the modify spin box that we see here, just the value highlights in blue, and then you can change the value. So I also turn that off, but again, that's just preference. There's not like it's not like functionally superior or anything. It's purely preference. You know, it's similar to like turning off shadows in shaded mode. I turn it off, but it's just preference. It's not functionally better or worse. It's just what I prefer. Okay, similarly, when it comes to feature mode, if you have Instant 3D on, you can click on a feature and you can grab a dimensional value and drag it to change that dimensional value. You can also single click on the dimension to change its value. Just a matter of preference. I usually have it turned off. There's times when I turn it on temporarily, like if I want to do some push-pull of the geometry, I'll turn it on. But for the most part, I have it turned off. When it comes to mouse gestures, you know, a lot of people ask me, do you use mouse gestures? What do you think about mouse gestures? It's something, again, that if you want to use it, I definitely encourage you to. It's going to be a great time saver. You can go over here to customize and then go to mouse gestures. You can see that in 2019, we can actually include up to 12 mouse gestures per mode. So mouse gestures definitely can be used. The only thing about it that I don't like is I don't like using it in assembly mode. So sometimes what I do is I turn off all the options for assembly mode, just kind of blank them out, or I just turn it off altogether. And the reason why is because in assembly mode, if you do a right mouse button and drag, it's a mouse gesture. That's how you activate those mouse gestures. And when you're in assembly mode, if you do a right mouse button and drag, that's how you rotate a model. So if I've got this assembly here, and I do a right mouse button and drag, you can see I can rotate that model. But that's also how we access the mouse gestures. So I would always find myself inadvertently changing the view by jumping into mouse gestures. Again, just personal preference. Next, I go to options here. And when I go to options, I'm going to go to sketch. And when I go to sketch, I'm going to go to enable on-screen numeric input and create dimension only when value is entered. What this is going to do is it's going to give me the auto dimension functionality that I love. So 60 by 100, and I immediately have that rectangle defined. Or I could draw in a circle here, and when I go to draw this circle, I could type in a value of 30. So that's that auto dimension in sketch mode, definitely like that. And the final thing that I do here for my general setup is I actually go through and I set up some options for assembly mode. And this has to do with your colors when you're working in assembly mode. So what I'm referring to here is that when we open up an assembly in SolidWorks and edit a part in the assembly, the default behavior is that the part will become one color, like a blue color, and all the other parts become transparent and kind of a wireframe. So for example, if I go to edit part here, you see all the other parts become transparent and almost a wireframe type of color. And so what I do is I toggle a few options, and I'll show you these options on the slide in just a moment. But those options are in colors. I go down to assembly. I say I want the edit part to be this first color, this mauve. The non-edit part to be the second color, this manila. And I go down here to the bottom and I say use specified colors when editing parts and assemblies. So that way SolidWorks knows it's supposed to use these colors. And then the last thing I do is under display, I say whenever I edit a part in an assembly, keep everything opaque. And so now when I go to edit this part, that part becomes mauve and all the other parts become this kind of manila color. It's very easy to tell which part I'm editing. If I jump down to this part, for example, and say edit part, it's very easy for me to tell which part I'm editing. So that's another setting that I do. And then the final settings would just be, I go to my options, go to file locations, I go to document templates, and I add my library of templates. So I have a library of templates that I use. Here's my templates. And that way, whenever I go to start a new part file and I go to advance, I've got this 2019 templates. I can choose part inch, part millimeter, etc. And in conjunction with that, when I go to default templates, I'm going to set my default templates to be pointing at those templates as well. So I'm talking through this right now, but if I do it on my own without talking, I can get through it in about 4 to 4.5 minutes. The last thing that I do is I just close SolidWorks so all those settings are written to the registry, and my initial setup is complete. So kind of just going through those settings, the initial setup, what we can do here is we can see I started out by hitting that push pin. I went through and turned off all my add-ins. I updated my S key. Changed the S key to look like what's shown here. I updated my colors. So I changed my toolbar colors to use the classic colors. Added that sketch mirror to the context toolbar. I, went one way or the other with mouse gestures. Like I said, usually I turn it off or I'll at least downgrade what's going on in assembly mode because of that right mouse button drag function. Go into auto dimension in sketch mode. So turn on my auto dimensions when I'm working in sketch mode. You got to remember to check both of those options. Instant 2D and sketch contours, we talked about them a little bit. You got to decide how you're going to handle those options. Personally, I usually, I default to turn them off, but I do turn them both on occasion when it's appropriate. Change my assembly edit part settings. That's actually a combination of 4 settings. So your assembly edit part color, non-edit part, the use specified colors option, and then the in context to opaque. Update my just general file locations. Go through and update my default templates. That way, whenever I do an import, like if I do import IGES or a command like that, or if I do a mirror part, I know that I'm going to be using the appropriate SolidWorks templates. And lastly, I close SolidWorks because when you close SolidWorks, that's going to write all those settings to your registry. So that's going to be the end of my stated tip for today. That does more or less bring us right up to 1 o'clock. I want to, of course, say thank you, because this also brings us to the end of Toby's Tech Talk, episode 81. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Really appreciate all your support and all the comments in the chat. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions. Let me know in the chat or maybe down in the comments below if you're watching this video on YouTube. Any ideas or suggestions for upcoming Toby's Tech Talk, let me know that too. Be on the lookout for the 3D Experience platform, not only for your own benefit, but also because we're going to be adding a Toby's Tech Talk community there very soon. And I look forward to seeing everyone next month. Feel free to reach out to me on any social media platforms. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Always appreciate getting some traction on that arena. And more Toby's Tech Talk coming next month. I want to say thank you so much. And a couple of questions are coming in here at the end, so I'll be happy to answer those questions. But if you do need to go, I understand. I know it's the end of the hour. And what's up, Chalice? Thanks for tuning in. Good to see you. And thanks to everybody for tuning in. Really appreciate everybody being here, and look forward to seeing everybody next month. Bye-bye. And just to answer some questions here that are coming in, Tony had a question. What am I using for the presenter tool? That's called Zoom It. So if you just do a Google search for Zoom It, you'll find it in Microsoft Sysinternals. That's a good one. What's up, Chad? Thanks for tuning in. Glad you can make it. What's up, Marcus? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, David. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sally. Just kind of catching back up with the chat here. Thanks, D. Wagner. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Charlie. Yes, the force is strong with you as well. All right, thanks so much, Tom. I'm glad you and the whole crew were able to get together to watch it this month. All right, thank you, David. Thanks, Charlie. Yep, thanks, D. Wagner. Thank you, Ray. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Hi, Al. Thank you. It's great to be back. I'm glad you got in as well. All right, thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. Cool, good. Learn new stuff today. That's the best feedback that I can get. That's all we can hope for. All right, thank you, Lucas. Nice to see you in here. Cool, I think that's about it. I know the stream is slightly delayed, so if anybody has any additional questions, I'll just stay on here for another minute. But otherwise, I want to just say again, thanks so much to everybody for making this first Toby's Tech Talk a success. First one here on YouTube, going live on YouTube, and we're gonna have more great stuff to come in the future. All right, I think that's going to do it. I'm going to kill the stream. Thank you all again so much. I'll see you all next month. Bye-bye.